but it's still all good. 7:45 here on the Morning Rush on 88.7 FM WLUW. Tony and WeekendGabe holding it down for Showtime right here on WLUW. Joining us now, the Triibe's editor-in-chief, Tiffany Walden. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
It's hella early. We love you for getting up with us. I made a mistake. I told her 8:40, and I would be hella upset.
I was definitely on my way back to sleep, but it's good.
I'm so glad you checked your phone. I did the same thing this morning. I usually get here about maybe 5:45. I woke up at 6:15, so you can imagine my alarm when I saw that. I text Tony right away, like, dude, you might have to start the show without me.
I was like, what? What happened?
Well, I listened to a plenty of Breakfast Club episodes to know that Charlemagne is always late and things always work out. So I'm just going to get on my Charlemagne this morning. But thank you so much for joining and making time for us.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. So Showtime's The Chi, it dropped last Sunday. They put out the pilot episode. And then I think on Wednesday, because I was home on Wednesday dying on my couch from an illness, and they released the second episode via their app, or at least I have it through the Hulu app, but that's where I saw the second episode. So they got 2 episodes in, and the third episode I think is supposed to come out later on today. So there's been a lot of conversation about the show itself, leading into it. What was it going to portray? What was the projection of the city going to be like on this huge platform on Showtime? But just a couple of notes before we get into it. The ratings for this have been really, really good. So on Sunday night, The Chi drew a total of 870,000 viewers. The show was also offered an advanced sampling, adding an additional 800,000, with a grand total of 1.6 million viewers having seen the premiere.
That's crazy.
Now, here's the note also. This is the best Showtime series debut when all factors are counted since Billions, which drew 3 million viewers total. So it is doing tremendously with the audience so far.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's really good news. That means it's not going to meet the same fate as famous. Was it White Famous?
Right, they cut White Famous off so quick.
I just got the Showtime app and I'm like, yo, I'm about to watch this, and they're like, yeah, it's canceled, right? So it's only just one season. I was like,
I don't even think I made it through. I think I watched 2 episodes, and all of a sudden it was canceled. I was like, damn. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't even know if I can say something.
You can say that. You're good.
You're good.
You're all right. But so the show came out. I think so. I don't want to get to the complaint about what people are talking about already, but I think the common complaint is that so far the show, I guess the image so far doesn't really match Chicago in itself, and maybe that's just some people nitpicking at it, not really seeing the big picture. But I've heard that the clothing and the attire isn't what people wear in Chicago. That being sort of common. That's what I've been hearing, and I was like, you're really nitpicking away a little bit, but. But the part about the show that I do really appreciate is just sort of the overall aura, and the opening scene of the show, in which you and I had I think when they first put out a commercial or like an online ad, was the image of the biker and one of the kids on a bike, and they're sort of on the west side of Chicago, and you can see just a straight shot to the Willis Tower, and we were sort of saying like that the west side has always the best view of downtown, but that was. Yeah, so that's the opening scene. But what was your initial thoughts, I guess, when you watched the first 2 episodes? Did you believe that you were in Chicago watching the show?
Yeah, I believed I was in Chicago, but I was one of those nitpicky folks too. I'm like, this is shot on the west side. Like, what is happening here?
Right.
Everyone picked that up.
Yeah, and I think that Chicagoans are just very, protective of our city and places where. A lot of times they say they're filming something on the south side of Chicago, or they're filming something on the west side of Chicago, and that never truly happens.
No.
And in this case, they said they were filming, this show on the south side, but there was the one cornerstone of the show, which is that corner store, that took place on the west side of Chicago, and there was a lot of controversy surrounding that and the food, and them throwing all of that food away back in the summer. So I think people were just, nervous about what the show was going to be and where it was going to be filmed, and, what they say is Black Chicago and what they actually are showing as is Black Chicago. And so I think the locations were a little disappointing. There was even a scene where they were on the L, and on one side of the L it was like a green line stop, like Garfield stop. On the other side it was a pink line, and it's like, when is the pink line and green line? ever in this one platform. So yeah, it's little things like that where we were just all like, I don't know about this.
Yeah, a little bit of authenticity issues going on there on the first opening season, episode.
Here, I'm sure that stuff didn't bother you or affect you at all. At least it seemed it didn't bother folks on Twitter. So.
No. I mean, I recognize some of the locations that they were shooting. I know they were like on Ogden, and like you said, they were a lot on the west side. So there's some familiarity with me because I do a lot of traveling with the day job. So I recognize a lot of the different places. What about the overall feel of it, the characters? Did they embody the Chicago spirit as far as like the lingo? I didn't really sense anything. And also another thing that kind of stood out to me, spoiler alert for those who haven't seen this, one of the kids in the Kuji, one of the kids in the opening episode, he's talking with a detective, and the kid is suggesting that the detective get Timberlands. I was like, that's more of like a New York thing to say, I guess attire. Yeah. So that didn't kind of sit well with me either.
Yeah, I would have thought he would have said, you need to get some Jordans or something like that.
Yeah.
The Timberlands, I was like, yeah, I guess. I like Timberlands, but Chicago would be like, oh man, you got to get you some Jordans. You got to get you some, you got to figure that out. The lingo was there, but it could have went much further. And I don't know how far this show is going to go with it.
Right.
I've really only seen the pilot episode. I'm not plugged, and I don't have.
I'm not either.
I'm still a starving artist, so I'm trying to figure out how to watch the show on Showtime.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that Charles Preston wrote a really good piece on this for Chicago Magazine, and he mentioned that too. There's not a lot of Chicago, like especially if you grew up in Chicago, you were a teenager in Chicago. We have a lot of sayings, a lot of phrases that are near and dear to us.
Right.
To us. And that stuff didn't appear in this episode either. They said G a lot, things like that, but I'm wondering how far they're really going to go.
I didn't hear anyone. Yeah, I didn't hear anyone call each other Joe or say something was cold.
Right.
I'm like, yo,
that's cold, or this is wrong. No, that stuff isn't in there. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they're holding back because they're trying to reach an audience outside of Chicago too.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
Exactly. We're talking with Tiffany Walden, the editor-in-chief of the Triibe, here on the Morning Rush with Tony and WeekendGabe, and we're talking about Showtime's new hit series, The Chi, which drew almost 2 million viewers in its first week since debuting last Sunday, which also is really cool because that was the same night as the Golden Globes. That might have hampered some other series, but they were actually a way to overcome that with some of the early releases and then later on during the week. I want to read a quote that Lena Waite, the creator of The Chi, said to NPR this week. I think I wanted to show our humanness. I don't think that we're really seeing that. I think that for the most part, black people specifically haven't sort of been used as props in TV shows as a way to move story along or as a way to make things more entertaining. I think with this, so far what I've seen in The Chi, at least in the first episode, and you get a lot of content introduced to most of the characters, is that the sense of community and how one incident can affect everyone in that community, and I think that's a realism that does happen in Chicago. So I think they got that on. They got that part right. At least I believe so.
Yeah, that's the part that I did, feel the most is that this is the first time, that I can remember really seeing, that one situation happens, and that you don't wake up thinking, oh, I'm going to kill someone today. You don't wake up saying, I'm a savage and I'm going to do this one thing today. All these incidents lead up to these people making these decisions. And she captured that, really well, in my opinion, and that's what I did enjoy about the first episode, was that you saw, people from different ages even being affected by one incident happening, early in the episode, and people having to make decisions based on that one incident happening, and the idea of misidentity and all of these other things that goes into the violence here. So it puts a face, and it puts, it humanizes the situation here in Chicago, instead of people just thinking, oh, as soon as you step off the plane here, you're going to get shot,
Right. Yeah. And I think that annoys me as much, and I'm so glad that this show does a really good job. So far, the first episode, so we can't really say too much of what's going to go forward. But in this opening scene, it wasn't this sort of this broad violence that's just spread across the city. They really key in on this one episode of violence that affects everyone, but it's not like you're watching The Wire where it's really everything's out of control. It's sort of, like I said, going back to it, like there's a sense of community and normalcy, and I think that's very much true in many of the communities that get a bad rap, like Inglewood or Austin, that people are still just people living in a community that just happens to be hampered with violence, and I think that they get that. I think they get that right as well. That it's not as flamboyant as the media or the president might portray the city as.
Right. I grew up in North Lawndale, and violence happened around me all the time, but it was never a situation where, I felt that I was in constant danger of something happening to me every day. I just was aware of my surroundings.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
My mom and my grandmother and my uncles, made me aware of my surroundings. So it's not. I think that the situation is much more complicated than mainstream media portrays it and shows it as, and that's where I'm hoping this show goes as well. One of the things that me and or myself and Morgan were talking about. Morgan is the co-founder of the Triibe, and she's a filmmaker as well. When she first saw it, she went to the screening here in Chicago, and the thing that she noticed with the pilot was that there are no women leads. The show really revolves around men, which is interesting because Chicago is very. A lot of neighborhoods are very maternal neighborhoods. A lot of us, I didn't grow up with my father. I knew who he was, but my father wasn't in the house with me.
Right.
On my block, a lot of the homes were led by grandmothers. The grandfathers, the fathers weren't around. So that is shocking that she, especially Lena Waithe, being a woman, does not have a woman or female lead character in this show when so much of the movement, so much of everything in Chicago kind of revolves around women.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't want to beat up on the show too much because it's like we're only getting a sampling of it, and it doesn't look like, at least from the initial first episode, people may not stay on for long. So, we may just see a rotation of different different actors coming on board, and it might transition. I'm gonna hope that's the case a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, it's not Chirac, so I'm excited.
Yes.
So.
I can't tell you how much that makes me cringe.
Right.
Not only when Chicagoans say it, but when people from not Chicago say it, it's like,
Exactly. Even Chief Keef tweeted oh, this show isn't like Chirac. The show might be good. So I think everyone is very hopeful about the Chi and where it's going to go.
One of the main characters, Jason Mitchell, who is famously known for playing Eazy-E in the Straight Outta Compton movie, plays Brandon, who is a chef or a sous chef. He's a restaurant trying to do right, lives with his girlfriend, has the craziest mother of all time who can go from 0 to 100 in a matter of seconds. I thought that in I don't know if his range is because we only seen him as Easy, and he really did a good job of, at least in my opinion, of portraying Easy. This one, I'm still not all the way convinced, his broad spectrum of being able to emote, because I really wasn't believing him too much in that scene with his mother at the
at the funeral scene.
Yeah, spoiler alert, but
yeah, he wasn't all the way there yet. But I watched him in Mudbound.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that yet. Yeah,
it's really good, and he did a really great job in Mudbound. So I like his storyline in the show because this idea that you're navigating these two worlds, right? You're at home, and home is this place with violence and poverty and these different responsibilities that you have. You have to kind of take care of your mother, you have to take care of your brother, you have to fight with your mother, you have to fight with your brother, and then you go to the other side of Chicago, which is what appears to be this hipster sushi place or whatever that he works for.
Right. Yeah.
And the whole switch, and he has to be a totally different person there. I mean, when he walks back into work after his brother is, shot and killed, it's just like,
spoiler.
I don't even think anyone even said anything to him when that happened.
Yeah, the manager told him to leave, and he's like, "Nah, I'm better off here." And which may be the case for a lot of people living in violence, where they're like, "I'd rather be anywhere but where I'm at right now." Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a real genuine feeling. at least in that moment, in that space right now. We're talking with Tiffany Walden, the editor-in-chief of the Triibe, about Showtime's hit series, The Chi. I want to share a really quick story. So last week, I was talking with Jessie Rohde, Chicago Tribune. She's a music writer over there, and she had tagged. She had tagged Lena Waithe about telling people to promote the Chi to watch it, and I just sort of just carelessly said hey, who got that free Showtime hookup? And I had tweeted at her though, and I felt so bad about the creator of Showtime. Hey, can I get that free hookup? And so I was I was just sort of just man, I gotta write this. So that's why I forked out the $9 to get the app for a couple months. So Tiffany, we are not plugged here at WLUW by any means. Don't get it twisted.
It's hard out here. But I'm gonna have to figure out this $9 as well to my Hulu so I can watch it too.
I think you can watch it free for a week, so you might want to look into that. So
just go on in.
wait till eight episodes in. All right, I'm caught up. All right, Tiffany, I appreciate you so much for waking up with us earlier than expected. I appreciate it so much. Please tell people where they can find you, and also talk a little bit about the Triibe. I know this is sort of not a new venture, but you guys are really early in this development. Talk a little bit about what you guys are doing over there.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary, which is just oh my God.
So where's the party at? Tony and I both need invites.
I do need an invite.
We're planning the party right now. We're going to have a fundraiser coming up very soon, and I'll have more details for it, and I hope to come back on the show when everything is finalized. But the Triibe is our digital media platform where we are reshaping the narrative of Black Chicago. So we have journalism stories. We have a documentary series on the site called Another Life, where we touch on the violence in Chicago as well from a millennial point of view. And we take creative submissions for poetry, prose, short videos, everything. And we've had an awesome year, and I'm just excited to see where we go from here. So please stay tuned for the fundraising campaign. And the website is www.thetriibe.com. And we're looking for interns too. So if you know somebody, let them know.